holidays and welcome to the Polk County History Center as we celebrate the opening of the 10th annual Festival of Wreaths. The Festival of Wreaths is a program that began about 10 years ago, and it created an opportunity for us to adorn these beautiful doors in this iconic, beautiful building. The wreaths are decorated by different designers, so they're all different. They have unique themes and unique designs. It is just a spectacular opportunity. It has become a very unique event. We don't have the Festival of Trees, we have the Festival of Wreaths. And we hope you'll all come and enjoy them, bid on them. You have until the evening of December 16th to bid on a wreath that you can take home and adorn your own doors.
Hey Santa, what are all those pictures on the wall of other Santas? I thought you were the only Santa that ever lived.
Well, that's a good question, buddy. You see, I'm actually the 8th Santa that's ever been here.
What?
That's right. Do you have time to listen to the entire history of Santa Claus?
Yes, I have like an hour.
Okay, that's plenty of time. You see, it all started many, many, many years ago with Nicholas of Myra. Myra is modern-day Turkey. And Nicholas of Myra was known for his acts of kindness and generosity. You see, although he was born to very rich parents, Nicholas lived a life of poverty. In fact, he was a bishop in the church. So what he would do is, instead of keeping the wealth for himself, he would spread it around and give it to other people. And during the time that Nicholas lived, if you had a young girl, when it became time for her to marry, be old enough to marry, the family that had the young girl had to provide what was called a dowry. That's a gift of significance to the family that she was marrying.
Ow.
So if you didn't have a dowry, your daughter could not get married. So there's a very famous story of Nicholas hearing of a father who had 3 daughters. And those 3 daughters were almost old enough to become married. But the father, despite being very hardworking and very deserving, did not have a dowry for any of his daughters. So Nicholas learned of this, and he traveled by cover of night and secrecy. And when the first daughter was old enough, he delivered a bag of gold to the house and never told anyone who did it. The next morning they found the gold, and the daughter could be married. And he did this again for the second daughter, and then the third. But on the third, he got caught. You see, the father caught him in the act, but Nicholas made him promise never to tell anyone. But he must have told someone, because we know about it today. And it was a lifetime of good acts that made Nicholas worthy of being the first Santa Claus. You see, towards the end of Nicholas's life, he was approached by the Great Act and the rest of the council of legendary figures. And they bestowed upon him the mantle of immortality. The mantle of immortality would last for 200 years, at which time he could not get sick and he could not die. But he had to continue being the greatest gift giver in the world. At the end of his 200 years, he would then pass that mantle on to the next worthy person, and they would continue the tradition. So after 200 years, Nicholas of Myra that we think of today as Saint Nicholas, passed his mantle of immortality to a Dutchman by the name of Sinterklaas. Sinterklaas was a gentleman who continued to wear the robes of a bishop and rode a flying white steed. He also had a helper by the name of Zwarte Piet, or Black Peter. And Black Peter would help him deliver the presents to the deserving children. In fact, Zwarte Piet got his name because traveling up and down the chimneys is how he got into the home to deliver the presents. He got covered with soot from the fireplaces, so he became Black Peter. And for 200 years, Sinterklaas continued to travel around the world on his flying steed, delivering presents to deserving children.
Just like you.
Exactly. At the end of 200 years, Sinterklaas searched the world for the next worthy person, and he passed that mantle of immortality to a Frenchman by the name of Pierre Noël, or Papa Noel. You see, Pierre Noël was a slight man. He was nowhere near as big as Sinterklaas, but that didn't matter. He continued to wear the robes of the bishop, but instead of any type of adornment, he would even use just a rope tied around his waist to keep the cloak closed. Sometimes he would wear a sash, and oftentimes he was seen carrying a wicker basket or a satchel full of toys to deliver to the children under cover of night. And Papa Noel continued to do that for 200 years. At the conclusion of his reign, he decided to pass his mantle to a very unique individual. In fact, she was the only woman in our history of Santa Claus. She was the Good Witch of Italy. Yes?
I was gonna say, is it a witch?
It is. It's the Good Witch of Italy, La Befana. La Befana would travel on her flying broomstick with toys in a bag upon her back or a satchel. And she would drop those presents down the chimney. So she would travel just like all of the other Santas before her, delivering the presents.
So she doesn't just put them there, she just drops the whole
She
bag?
drops each individual present down the chimney.
Make sure they don't break.
That's right. So La Befana continued to fly through the night sky for 200 years. And then she decided it was time to pass her mantle on to a gentleman from Hungary. Now, Hungary is the home of Mikulas. And Mikulas did things a little bit differently.
Does he have a partner?
He has not one partner, but two partners. You see, Mikulas would travel, again, adorned in the cloak and garb of the bishop, with a tall papal hat, a very tall hat. And he would travel with his two helpers, one, the good angel. I would imagine was pretty easy to determine that she was there to help the good children and deliver presents to them. And his other helper was to deal with the bad children. The other helper's name was Krampus.
I know it.
Krampus was a black demon-like creature with horns growing out of his head. And he would continue to punish the bad children. In fact, all of the depictions had Krampus with switches or whips in his hand.
So glad that's not you.
Exactly. We don't do that anymore. Because after 200 years, Mikulas passed his mantle on to a Russian gentleman who lived way up north in the Siberian side of Russia, named Desmoroz. Desmoroz, also known as Grandfather Frost, is the first to not wear the robes of a bishop. He wore very elaborate garb, trimmed in fur, very much like I have here today. And he would wear either blue or red. And he was accompanied by a helper, but it was his granddaughter, the Snow Princess. So we have a gentleman who is living in the coldest region known at the time, and he continues to deliver presents even in the harshest of conditions.
Even in a snowstorm?
Especially in a snowstorm. After 200 years, though, Desmoroz, oh, one more thing about Desmoroz. He gave his presents on New Year's Eve.
So not Christmas Eve
Not Christmas
like
Eve.
you.
Correct.
This year.
Correct.
Or this month.
In fact, we deliver presents on other days other than Christmas Eve. December 6th still celebrates St. Nicholas. It's St. Nicholas Day, or the day of his feast. On Christmas Eve, I am known to travel around the world and deliver presents. On New Year's Day, we have the traditions set forth by Desmorose. And on January 6th, we have the date of Epiphany, where the three kings, which represent the three wise men who delivered presents to the baby Jesus, they deliver presents to Mexico and the South American countries. So you see, I'm not exactly the only gift giver there is.
Oh.
When Desmorose had finished his 200 years of service, he passed his mantle of immortality to an Englishman. This Englishman we know as...
You.
Nope,
Santa.
Father Christmas.
Oh.
Father Christmas was the gentleman who we see with the fur very much like mine, but a tunic with a hood, not a hat like I wear today. He was also seen wearing a wreath of holly on his head as well. And Father Christmas also had the distinction of being able to communicate with animals.
So he could get like anything to help him if he's late?
Especially the woodland creatures, exactly. And a very, very interesting thing happened while Father Christmas was in charge. The New World was discovered. The folks that lived in Europe discovered the New World of North America, and they began to migrate and immigrate to this new land. And with them came their traditions. The Germans brought the tradition of the Christmas tree. The Dutch were still celebrating what Sinterklaas had done so many years before. Father Christmas figured that his next person he would find would be from North America. So when it came time for him to give up his mantle of immortality, he found me. Kris Kringle is what I used to go by. And when I met Father Christmas, he told me that I was worthy of the mantle of immortality. So I have promised to continue to deliver those presents to the deserving children around the world. Now, a lot has happened during my reign as well. I first received the mantle of immortality in the year 1868. I am in year 152 of my 200 years. Because of the global expansion from the people of Eastern Asia and Europe into the New World, I have decided to move everything up here to the North Pole. You see, from the North Pole, every direction I travel is south. So I'm always traveling in the correct direction to start my midnight ride. I can also take advantage of the international date line and different time zones along the way. So when people say, how can you make all of those deliveries in one day? The truth is I don't. It takes me a couple of days. And having moved here to the North Pole, I found that there were people living here. The elves. And you guys were so nice as to offer to help me. I also decided that unlike Sinterklaas and his flying steed, I needed a little bit more flying power. Yes?
Did you have reindeer?
I do now because I use the native Arctic caribou, which is another name for reindeer. And with a little magic corn that I think you're in charge of, what can they do with the magic corn?
Eat it.
And then what?
Fly.
And then, of course, they can fly at breakneck speeds, helping me deliver those presents on time, right?
Yeah.
Having come to the North Pole has made everything so much easier for me. There were a couple of times, though, where other people have seen me. Now, one was on purpose. There was a gentleman by the name of Thomas Nast who asked to take my picture so that he could use it in a publication called Harper's Weekly. And in the late 1800s, he published those pictures so the rest of the world could see what Santa Claus looked like.
Like you right now.
It was me, of course.
Yeah.
And the other time, I didn't plan on getting caught. And that was the time when I visited the home of Clement C. Moore. Now, Clement C. Moore was so excited about what had happened that night, he wrote it down in a poem. And most people know that poem by the name "'Twas the Night Before Christmas."
The book, 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, about you and your jolly.
Exactly, all of those things. The name of that book is actually A Visit from St. Nicholas. Now, when we read that book, we read it in Clement C. Moore's point of view. But how would you like to hear that night from my point of view?
Yes.
All right. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house, not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. The children were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. And Mama in her kerchief and Pa in his cap had just settled down for a long winter's nap. When out on the lawn there arose such a clatter, Pa sprang from the bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window he flew like a flash, tore open the shutter and threw up the sash. Now, the moon on the breast of that new fallen snow gave a luster of midday to objects below, when what to Pa's wondering eyes should appear but a magnificent sleigh and 8 flying reindeer, with a little old driver so lively and quick, Pa knew in an instant it must be St. Nick. More rapid than eagles my coursers they came, and I whistled and I shouted and I called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donder and Blitzen, to the top of the porch, to the top of the wall. Dash away, dash away, dash away all. And as dry leaves before the wild hurricanes fly, when they meet with an obstacle mount to the sky, so up to the rooftop my coursers they flew, with a sleigh full of toys and yours truly too. Then, in a twinkling, Pa heard on the roof the prancing and the pawing of each little hoof. As he drew in his head and was turning around, down the chimney I came with a bound. I was dressed all in fur from my head to my foot, and my clothes, they were tarnished with ashes and soot. A bag full of toys I had flung on my back, and I looked like a peddler just opening my pack. My eyes, how they twinkled, my dimples, how merry. My cheeks were like roses, my nose like a cherry. My droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard of my chin was as white as the snow. A stump of a pipe I held tight in my teeth, and the smoke, it encircled my head like a wreath. I have a broad face and a little round belly that shakes when I laugh like a bowl full of jelly. I am chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, and Pa laughed when he saw me in spite of himself. But a wink of my eye and a twist of my head soon led him to know he had nothing to dread. I spoke not a word. I went straight to my work. I filled all of those stockings, and then I turned with a jerk, and lying a finger aside of my nose, and giving a nod, up the chimney I rose. I sprang to my sleigh, to my team gave a whistle, and away we all flew like the down of a thistle. But Pa heard me exclaim as we flew out of sight, "Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night." And now you know everything there is to know about the history of Santa Claus. And in 48 short years, I too will be looking for a replacement for my mantle of immortality. Now, let me see here. Oh my, would you look at the time? Buddy, we're supposed to be checking on those presents in the wrapping department.
No!
Are you ready?
Yeah, but can I ask you a question?
Certainly.
Can I call you Chris?
Oh, buddy.
Jingle, 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 jing, jingle, jingle, jing, jingle, 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 jing, jingle, jingle, jing,
Dashing through the snow
Jing-a-jing.
in a one-horse open sleigh.
Jing-a-jing.
O'er the fields we go,
Jing, jing, jing,
laughing
jingle,
all the
jingle
way.
all the
Bells on
way.
bobtail ring,
Jing-a-jing.
making spirits bright.
Jing-a-jing.
What fun it is to ride and sing a sleigh
ching.
and hitch him to an open sleigh, and crack he'll take the
Jingle,
lead.
jingle,
Oh,
jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Jingle, jingle all the way. Hey!
Oh, the holidays are a-calling, but the temperature isn't falling. If there's one thing Polk County knows, it won't snow, it won't snow, it won't snow. Oh, while gifts will be a-getting, in Florida we'll be sweating. 'Cause there's one thing that we all know, it won't snow, it won't snow, it won't snow. When I put on my festive clothes, how I'll hate going out in the sun. But the weather can't stop my fun. And until December is done, I'll spread my Christmas cheer round, giving gifts and singing out loud. Even though we all know it won't snow, it won't snow, it won't snow. Oh, and gifts will be a-getting, but in Florida we'll be sweating. Hoping someday in Polk it would snow, it would snow, it would snow. No, it won't snow. Until December is done, until December is done, I'll spread my Christmas cheer round, giving gifts and singing out loud. I'll enjoy the season, although it won't snow, it won't snow, it won't snow. It won't snow, it won't snow, it won't snow. It won't snow, it won't snow, it won't snow.
joining us tonight, and we hope that you'll come to the History Center to walk through the beautiful iconic building to select your favorite wreath. Remember also that you can enjoy the beauty of the wreaths by visiting polkcountyhistorycenter.org. Bid on your wreath all the way up to December 16th to take your favorite wreath home to adorn your beautiful doors for the holidays.